three-time All-Pro cornerback Jalen Ramsay to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow. As part of this trade, Ramsay will get a $1.5 million raise this season.
You guys heard that right. We just had a massive trade here on a Monday morning, June 30th. Completely out of left field. So the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins just made a blockbuster trade with Micah Fitzpatrick, which was completely shocking to me, along with Jalen Ramsay and Jonnu Smith. But before I get into the content, please hit that like button, subscribe if you are brand new. It helps the algorithm, it helps me support the channel. I will have a lot more videos come out within the next 2 to 3 weeks, getting right before the training camp, but let's get into it. First part of the trade I want to talk about is Micah Fitzpatrick going back to the Miami Dolphins. If you guys did not know, he was drafted by the Dolphins in 2018 in the first round, number 11 overall. And like I said, I had a really good feeling that Ramsay would be traded. I didn't think he would be traded to the Steelers, and I absolutely had no idea that Fitzpatrick would be traded, even like just traded, period. So we're taking a look at his contract. Well, at least I'm taking a look at it real quick. He has 2 years left on his contract. We're talking about Minka, by the way. 15 for this year and 17 for next year. He's only 28 years old, so he's definitely still in the middle of his prime. Taking a look at his grades from last year, he had a 68.4 overall grade with a 74.3 run defense. He had 1 interception and 1 total pressure, which obviously safeties are not known for pressures, but 69 tackles and 31 receptions were allowed. So he had a decent year. Of course, he had a lot of good years a couple years before, and he has 20 interceptions in his career. So a very good safety, an all-pro safety. This was a massive upgrade for the Dolphins in the secondary because the Miami Dolphins safeties were not good. The Dolphins had Ashton Davis and what is his name? I completely butchered his name, I'm so sorry. But Minka is definitely an upgrade, at least in these 2 players in the safety room. But now we're going to be talking about Jalen Ramsay going to the Steelers. And now 99.99% of us knew that Ramsay would be traded. But I personally thought he was going to go to the Rams or somewhere else in the NFC. But the Dolphins ended up trading him to the Steelers, which was surprising to me. With Jalen Ramsay being traded to the Steelers also gave him a $1.5 million raise for this year. And he still has 4 years left on his contract with $7 million in the cap this year, 18 for next year, $20 million for 2027, and $31 million for 2028, an unrestricted free agent in 2029. So that is a massive contract for a 30-year-old. So it's like the Steelers are taking a lot of money here. Even though a lot of people say Jalen Ramsay is completely washed up, I really wouldn't say that. Now, did he live up to expectations last year than he did early in his career? No, but he still had a 77 overall grade with 85.7 run defense grade, so he's pretty good at making tackles. He also had 2 interceptions, so Jalen Ramsay, even though he's at 30 years old, about to be turning 31 very soon, playing very, very good. And now Jalen Ramsay will be sided with Joey Porter, but don't be shocked if Ramsay ends up being transitioned to a safety, because there's a lot of not speculations, but there's definitely some rumors saying, you know, he could be a better safety than a cornerback. I've heard that from multiple sources. Just because Jalen Ramsay is slowing down a little bit, he might be better as a safety than a corner. So definitely look at that whenever the season comes in, especially training camp, to see if you would even like it or not, safety or not. And the last but not least part of this trade was Jonnu Smith going to the Steelers as well. Now, this was reported maybe a month or 2 ago that Jonnu Smith wanted to be traded because he wanted a contract extension, in which, by the way, he did get that with the Steelers for $12 million for next year. This year he'll be getting $4 million, so he got what he wanted there. But also, it was rumored to be traded to the Steelers. Like I said, this was brought up a couple months ago. It ended up happening. It came to fruition for Jonnu, so this was definitely a win-win. Well, I would say a win for the Steelers, a win for Jonnu, but definitely a big L for the Dolphins. The reason why I say it's a big L for the Dolphins is because who was their tight end? I'm looking at their roster right now. For the tight ends, they got Julian Hill, Pharaoh Brown and Tanner Connor. That is atrocious in my opinion. So that is a massive L for the Dolphins right there for sure. But for the Steelers, it's a very good 1-2 punch for Pat Freiermuth and now Jonnu Smith. They got, of course, Aaron Rodgers throwing in the ball. So we're going to see how the Steelers are going to be really good this year on the offensive side, especially with DK Metcalf. I think the offense should be a little bit better than last year. And now the defense for the Steelers, I think, in my opinion, probably got better. Of course, Minka was a very good safety, and you know, in order to get Jalen Ramsay, they had to give up a lot because Jalen Ramsay is still playing good ball. But I think this is a good swap. Again, definitely shocked that Minka ended up getting traded back to Miami, but I'm not shocked at all that Jalen Ramsay got traded, like I mentioned earlier in the video. So the overall grades I do want to give out, the Steelers definitely get an A. Because they got Jalen Ramsay. He's still a very good cornerback, probably top 10 cornerback maybe in the NFL still. Even though that contract is not looking good for the next couple of years, they can maybe just cut him, or they can maybe, you know, restructure it, or however the NFL does it. So it's like, it looks really bad right now, but most likely will be restructured in the next couple of years. And they ended up trading, of course, Minka Fitzpatrick, which is a big piece, but it could be definitely worse because that secondary and that defense is still pretty good, especially with TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward. You know, the defense for the Steelers is always going to be good. I also give them an A here because they only gave up a 5th round pick for technically Jonnu Smith, a huge upgrade to the tight end. Like I said, number 2 tight end. You know, their tight end group is freaking amazing with Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. Like I said, I give the Steelers an A for sure. But the Miami Dolphins, I'm going to give them a C+ here. I feel like, you know, Minka Fitzpatrick is a huge upgrade. You know, swapping him with Jalen Ramsay. Jalen Ramsay was already going to go out the door. So it's like, I like that part of the trade for sure. I'll get in a B+ on that part. But also, Jonnu Smith was obviously one of the best weapons on their offense. Their tight end room is horrible, and only getting a 5th round pick for him is basically caca. So I don't like that part. That's the reason why the grade is going to be C+. Obviously, I definitely understand Jalen Ramsay being traded, but the Jonnu Smith was honestly kind of embarrassing. They couldn't extend him at all. They had some money for next year, so it's like, what are the Dolphins doing? But that wraps up this video. If you do like it, hit that like button, comment down below your biggest reaction to this trade. If you like it, if you dislike it for both the Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm out of here. Deuces.